Um, It's truly a pleasure to welcome you to the University of Chicago, and especially to the Joseph Regenstein Library, which is such a central part of this university. I want to start by extending a very special welcome to Governor Pritzker, to Lieutenant Governor Stratton. We're just so grateful that you've joined us here today. University of Chicago was founded on the principle that academic freedom and freedom of expression are the foundation of education and the wellspring of discovery. We live in an era of heightened political polarization, and free expression and free inquiry are in clear distress. We see this in action in books and the ideas that they hold, which are being sent to libraries and collections across the nation. That kind of censorship poses challenges to any individual who wants to engage with difficult, controversial, or uncomfortable ideas. These challenges are not new. In any given era, efforts to dictate what ideas can be accessed and which may not can skew in one political direction or another, but such efforts are always harmful to democratic societies, and especially harmful to universities. Universities have a calling to serve as genuine truth-seeking places, and hence are essential to the health of democracies. I want to share a quote from our founding president, William Rainey Harper. "When for any reason in a university on private foundation or a university supported by public money, the administration of the institution or the instruction in any one of its departments is changed by an influence from without, at that moment, the institution has ceased to be a university. Individuals or the state or the church may found schools for propagating certain kinds of instruction, but such schools are not universities and may not be so denominated." It's pretty straightforward. We do a great deal to instill, protect, and advance free inquiry and expression at this university. Later this week, we will be hosting a new set of events, a new forum for free inquiry and expression at the university, and all of you are invited to participate in that, as you may, to hear the thoughts of our community about these topics. In collating a banned books collection, the library today is taking an important step to make commonly banned books available to our community and to the public. The books that have been banned are in many cases already available to the UChicago community and to the public in Illinois. Nonetheless, we remain concerned about the growing efforts to restrict access because some of them are state-sponsored efforts. By calling attention to the corpus of banned books, we will allow members of our community to see more readily the pattern of what is happening. Again, I would like to thank you for joining us today. Your presence and partnership serves as an encouraging endorsement of our effort and to the principles that underpin this university. I'd like now to turn it over to Torsten Reimer, the university librarian and dean of the University Library, to share more about this important program. Torsten.
Well, thank you very much for the introduction, and thank you all to be here. It's a really important topic for us, and I'm glad that we have a chance to discuss it with you. As President Alios reminded us, this university was founded on a strong set of beliefs, and this library system as well is founded on the belief that knowledge creates a better world and enhances our lives. For those of you who are curious, this is what our Latin motto says. We also believe that learning and creating knowledge require the freedom to explore, to discuss, and to share views and ideas. A discourse that allows for disagreement and for divergent perspectives makes us all stronger, whether it's in academia or in society more broadly. The enduring success of the University of Chicago gives us confidence that these values hold as true today as they did when the university was founded. However, we see these values under attack today. Across the United States, books are being banned, and libraries and librarians are being threatened. The American Library Association just released stats that show that for the third year in a row, attempts to censor books have hit a record number. In the first 8 months of this year alone, the ALA have tracked efforts to ban around 2,000 books in libraries across the United States. The vast majority of these challenges were to books that were either written by or written about a person of color or a member of the LGBTQIA+ community. Book bans have often focused on public libraries, but on school libraries, but in the last few years, public libraries have become more in focus, and now academic libraries are also affected by this. This should not come as a surprise. After all, book bans are usually not just aimed at a single book. They're aimed at what a book stands for and at what libraries stand for. Books are more than containers of text or sources of inspiration or enjoyment. They're a symbol for knowledge and its impact on society. In a similar way, libraries are more than just containers of books. They are a symbol for progress and a promise of a space where we all can get lost in thought, where we can get inspired, where we can engage with the world's knowledge. A promise that a free society accepts and celebrates a multitude of views. And a promise that we stand by those who cannot afford access to knowledge and that marginalized communities can still use their voice. The University of Chicago stands firmly behind the promise of the book and the promise of the library. And today we also stand with librarians across the country and all of those who seek to inquire and to express themselves. So in that spirit, I'm going to announce that we're going to take 5 steps relating to banned books. First, the University of Chicago Library has started to build the banned books collection. This is an attempt to bring together all books banned in the United States, whether in print or in digital. We already have about a quarter of the over 1,500 banned books, and you can see some right here behind us. And we will grow and update this collection. And sadly, I think we will have to grow this collection, even if at any point we reach it being complete. In addition to creating a historic record, this collection will enable research on book bans and also increase access. So we'll not just make these books available through interlibrary loan to other academic libraries, but to everyone who comes to visit our libraries, whether they come from an Ivy League institution or just live a few blocks south of here. Secondly, we also want to support those who live in areas where books are banned. And so I'm announcing a partnership with the Digital Public Library of America. Through the Banned Book Club on the Palace e-reader, the DPLA already make books available in those locations where books are banned. Currently, this Banned Book Club includes about 2/3 of the books that we know have been banned, but we'll work with the DPLA to increase that percentage with the aim to ultimately provide access to all books that are being banned in the locations where they are banned. Third, as a second part of our partnership with the DPLA, the University of Chicago Library and the DPLA together will, through the Palace e-reader app, provide access to all banned books that we have available in digital form, not just to the campus community, but to all residents of Illinois, initially for 1 year. Fourth, in the Chicago spirit, we want to encourage research and debate on book bans through a program of events with partners outside and inside the university, for example, the Chicago Forum for Free Inquiry and Expression that the President has just mentioned. And then finally, we are launching the Freedom to Read Fund for those who want to support these and future activities of the University of Chicago Library. In closing, I think I would be remiss not to acknowledge that some of our patrons may not agree with everything that we will add to the collection. In fact, that may be true for some of our staff and possibly even for myself. But this, I would say, is what libraries are here for. We want to create an environment for freedom of discussion and exploration. Libraries, I would say, are a promise of freedom. We are the promise of a free and democratic society that's built on knowledge, the promise of freedom to choose your own destiny and to dream of a better world for everyone. So today we're taking a stand to say that this promise shouldn't just be a dream, but it should be reality. And with that, it's now my great pleasure to welcome our distinguished guest, J.B. Pritzker, the Governor of Illinois.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much to Dean Reimer and really powerful words and powerful announcement being made today about the stand that the University of Chicago is taking for free expression, for free speech, and for the freedom to read. Thank you, and thanks to our great president here at University of Chicago, Paul Alivisatos, and also to the Hyde Park community for hosting us today. A few months ago, I signed a law making Illinois the first state in the nation to ban book bans, ensuring that our schools and our libraries stand for free thought and free speech once and for all, to make sure that people understand who we are and what we stand for. And I want to thank our Secretary of State, Alexi Giannoulias, for his steadfast advocacy working with the ALA as well as with the General Assembly to get that bill passed. What an honor it is to commemorate National Banned Book Week here in Hyde Park, the historic home of the civil rights movement, of civil rights leaders, and of barrier breakers at an international center for academic study and that stands for academic freedom like the University of Chicago. There's a mob mentality that's taken hold based on the misguided notion that everyone's personal taste in books ought to be codified so that no one else can access the books that each person may find distasteful. The Color Purple, To Kill a Mockingbird, Catcher in the Rye, Slaughterhouse-Five, all are books that over time were banned by someone because someone convinced someone else that the values conveyed by the authors of those works didn't comport with their own values. But when we engage with ideas that are new to us, challenge and be challenged by different perspectives, learn new things, understand all the amazing miracles and darkest hours of the world around us, we are all better off. Books are just a way of talking to one another, and maybe a way of listening to one another. That's more important now than perhaps ever before in American history. Today's announcement not only means that any member of the public can come access commonly banned books here in person at UChicago, it also means that residents throughout Illinois can access these texts digitally through the library's partnership as announced by Torsten through the Digital Public Library of America. Children and teenagers can visit the library in person with their parents and teachers and explore age-appropriate materials too. And I want to be very clear about my views on book banning. Everyone standing here, everyone here is protecting our children and parents' rights. But there are small mobs of people around the country and here in Illinois who are trying to use the terminology of freedom and saying that they are protecting our children. But they use it as a veil for their bigotry. And they don't really care about helping children learn and grow at an age-appropriate pace. We've been here before. Tyrants and fascists rise up and authoritarian regimes take hold. And what's the first thing that they do? They ban the books that disagree with them. Stifle free thinking. They rewrite history. You know, the Taliban arrests people who hand out books to women and girls. Any books. China bans books that tell the true story of the Tiananmen Square protests and massacre. America has always overcome authoritarian regimes and petty tyrants who try to take power here at home, and we will continue to do so. I'm so grateful to the University of Chicago team for their leadership in this work. No better place for us to be making this announcement, no better place for us to be talking about banning book bans and standing up for people's right to read. Even in the face of rising censorship around the country, I have faith in the power of free speech and free thinking to overcome. I have faith because through programming and protests and advocacy like this, Illinoisans demonstrate to the nation and the world what it really looks like to stand up for liberty. With that, it is my great pleasure to turn it over to an outspoken advocate for political, economic, and personal freedom for the people of Illinois, and that's our great Lieutenant Governor, Juliana Stratton.
Good morning, everyone. I am Lieutenant Governor Juliana Stratton, and I use she, her pronouns. Thank you, Governor Pritzker, for that warm introduction. I am always honored to stand by your side, and I appreciate your commitment to free speech, free thinking, and ensuring diverse stories are told and diverse voices are heard. I want to thank President Alivisatos, Dean Reimer, and the leadership, faculty, and staff here at the University of Chicago. My mother was a student here and studied right here in the Regenstein Library. I also want to thank the dedicated staff of the Regenstein Library and the teams ensuring books are not lost to censorship and regressive ideas in Illinois and beyond. Your work is essential. In fact, it's critical at this moment, and we are grateful for you. This Banned Books Week, we come together as educators, as librarians, as policymakers, and community members to say, let freedom read. Because all of us here recognize that the stories we read are more than just words on a page. They hold the narratives of who we are. They immortalize our history so it may never be erased and we can continue to learn from it. We know books are a powerful tool in the journey to justice and liberation, and the extremists calling for book bans know that too. The people pushing for book bans will try to tell us that this is about decency, about what's appropriate. But when most bans target books by or about BIPOC communities and the LGBTQ+ community, it's clear that the aim is to control the narrative, to be the gatekeepers of who gets to be seen and heard. And we all know that banning books isn't about protecting children, not when our libraries, a safe space for families, a refuge for young people to experience the joy of reading, are threatened with violence because extremists are stoking the flames of a dangerous ideology. In Illinois, we see through these thinly veiled attempts to silence marginalized voices, to censor the truth, to deprive the next generation of the stories that speak to them and expand their worldview. This week, and every week, we will continue to speak out and act decisively. As the first state in the nation to outlaw book bans, we will lead the way to show that together we can take the next step toward freedom for all, that we will not allow hate and censorship to erase our stories, our contributions, or our history, because when you do that, the real goal is to erase us. This database, this collection, represents the enduring struggle for fair access to information and literary justice. Because no matter the challenges ahead, freedom will prevail as long as we each do our part and support each other in the work. And there is more work to do, and we are standing together to set an example of how to get it done. Thank you, and I now invite the governor back to the lectern to answer questions from the media.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes.
We're looking at the possibility of more migrants arriving over the next few weeks than have arrived in the past year since the buses started coming. members of the city council were critical last week of the state's response to the crisis. Why did it take until now to put this plea out to the federal government for more help in the form that you did? And what are Senators Durbin and Duckworth and the congressional delegation doing to support the state in this effort?
Well, I've been communicating with the White House for many, many months now, so don't get it wrong. Just because we have a letter that was sent to the White House with a set of requests doesn't mean we haven't put requests in over time over the last 13 months. So let's put that to rest. The congressional delegation is quite well aware and have had many conversations with me and me with them about what we need to do to support our asylum seekers that are here in Illinois. Many of them have advocated for the dollars that are necessary to support cities and states that are caring for people who are suffering from this humanitarian crisis. You've heard some of them speak of that, the Congress people and our senators as well. The problem is, as you know, the House of Representatives is not controlled by Democrats, and indeed it is controlled instead by people who are expressing their xenophobia and who are not helping to manage the crisis of people coming to the border, but instead exacerbating it.
Governor,
I've seen you at the lectern over the past several months talk about the different requests you've made of the Department of Homeland Security, of the White House directly. Why did it have to be compiled into this letter? Why aren't you getting better and faster responses out of the Biden administration?
We expect to, and we want to, and that's one reason why you saw that letter. We wanted to make sure that there was a public statement out there of many of the things that we've talked about in the past with the administration, but the things that we need right now. We know that we're starting to see more and more buses. It is, as everybody should recall, let's not forget why we're seeing those buses. It's because there are these border politicians, the borders of the United States have politicians who want to cause havoc in the rest of the country. They could have raised their voices. They could have advocated in a political fashion for comprehensive immigration reform. But as you know, those are the very people who are opposed to comprehensive immigration reform. So instead, they want to wreak havoc. They want to cause a political challenge for the president and for, the people of the opposite party from them. And so I wanted to make sure that we were, that everybody understands who is causing this issue for states across the country. You don't see him sending anybody to Idaho. You don't see him sending anybody to South Dakota or Wyoming or Missouri, states that are controlled by the opposite part, by his party. Instead, he's sending them only to blue states.
Governor, is it time to close the border?
Well, as you know, I've been in favor of comprehensive immigration reform, which means making sure that we have border security, but also making sure that we're letting people come into this country. But as I say, there are people who want to use this as a political issue. And for, 40 years now, I think we've all been watching as particularly the Republican Party has used this over and over again, their xenophobia being, wearing it on their sleeve about this issue, and instead not introducing anything that would be practical about accomplishing that comprehensive reform.
What do you make of all the criticism at the City Council hearing last week, especially from Alderman Rosa? And he said that even though the state and the city said, yeah, let's do this shelter in May, it still isn't up and running. Why is there such a delay?
Well, we have a good relationship with the mayor and the mayor's office, and we're about getting things done, and so is the mayor. And indeed, we have supported the mayor and the city of Chicago comprehensively. Believe me, we have not only put lots of dollars forward, a multiple of what the city has put forward, we have as a state put forward. In addition to that, though, many, many members of my team and personnel from the state, from the Department of Human Services, and specifically our rental assistance program, which is helping to house the many people that have housing already. So we're proud of that work, and people who want to harp on it aren't paying attention to the work that's getting done.
Governor,
Yes.
have you talked to Texas Governor Abbott within the past year? Are there any communications about logistics? Are you hearing about this increased busloads of migrants through other organizations, not through Texas? And then also the New York governor, when she wrote a letter to the White House, asked for some executive actions that the president might be able to do. Has that been in discussions with what you're talking to him about?
Yes, but just to answer your questions, lots of communication between staff on my end and staff for the governor of Texas. And I've made it very clear that the governor needs to stop what he's doing and that we all should be working on reform together. He shouldn't have to deal with all of the folks who are coming across the border and staying in Texas. We should, again, have comprehensive reform, and the only way to take care of this problem is to get that done. But once again, you don't hear him telling Republicans that they need to go to work in Washington on behalf of reforms at the border. Instead, he's just sending busloads around the country and causing chaos, frankly, wherever he is doing that.
Yeah. Specifically, what do you want President Biden to do? Is there a dollar amount that you want the federal government to give the state of Illinois? Are there executive actions? I mean, what are specifics that you think the president can do to help Illinois?
Everything that we outlined in the letter, save for the dollars, are things that the administration can do and should be doing. And those are outlined in the letter. The dollar amounts, I mean, you've heard how much we've spent at the local level in Chicago, in the state of Illinois. Hundreds of millions of dollars. I would say collectively we're talking about $500 million at least when you add what the city has done. So we need reimbursement for those dollars. They promised that. There was a fund to do that, but the problem got so big that there wasn't enough money. Now Congress needs to act, and you see how they're acting. You know, they honestly can't put a budget together in Washington. It's particularly the House of Representatives. So now we have to wait till November 17th to see if they can actually pass a budget and whether they'll put dollars in that budget for the care of the asylum seekers that are coming to all of our states.
But with multiple buses coming every day, can we even afford to wait until November?
No, we can't wait till November 17th. But again, that letter has many, many requests in it that have nothing to do with those dollars. We also need the dollars, but we also need assistance. There are lots of things that we ask for, and I'd just point you to the letter.
When we see members of
Yeah.
the city council kind of sniping at you about the state's response, you sending this public letter to the president, sort of critical of the federal response, is Governor Abbott achieving what he's trying to politically by making Democrats fight with each other? Or is
That is no doubt what he
some
hopes.
other than question the idea of the city being a sanctuary city and the state being a sanctuary state?
No doubt that is what Governor Abbott hopes, is that it will cause chaos in the places where he's sending asylum seekers. And I think that the more that people feed into that at the local level, the more likely it is that he will increase the number of buses, and you're seeing that now.
What would you not say it is pretty chaotic right now?
Oh, no doubt about it. But you know, this has been a problem, and I've talked about it many times. So has the city, and we've been working together. And I might add that I want to compliment the mayor and his administration on this. The amount of communication that they've provided working with us over just the time since he took office is a multiple of what was occurring before that. They really want to solve this problem, and so do we. We've been trying to solve it for more than a year now, comprehensively, and providing the resources to do that. It has to be done at the city level, much of the work, right? Because I know there are people who say, let's send thousands of these folks. We have lots of territory. We could send them out to Union County in southern Illinois or something like that. The reality is you need a place where there are services available, where there's law enforcement available, where there is housing available. And the truth is those don't exist in many of the counties across the state of Illinois. They really do have to be solutions that are near and in the city of Chicago. And that's what we've been supporting at the state level.
Thank you. That's all the time we have. How much more can Chicago take?
Take one more. Yeah.
I mean, how much more can Chicago take? Everyone says right now we're at a breaking point. What is your fear?
Look, we're gonna-
if the federal government doesn't come through with any type of help anytime soon?
We're going to do what we have to do to take care of the people who are here. But at the same time, as I've said, there are other things the federal government can do other than sending us money that they haven't yet done. And I do believe, and I have spoken with the White House since even over the weekend and the letter, to make sure that they heard us and that they want to be responsive. And they have said they want to be responsive to those things, and they're kind of working down the list to see what the things are that they can do immediately and what they might be able to do in the near term.
And what would those be? What would be the immediate things that they could do?
I refer you to the letter. We really have, I think, been fairly comprehensive in that list in the letter. And then, once again, I want to implore the members of the Congress, particularly the Republican members of Congress, and those here in Illinois, and I hope you will ask them, why they are not supporting the state of Illinois, the city of Chicago. I mean, we're the greatest state in the country, the greatest city in the greatest state, and they're squandering our resources by not supporting us with things that they can do. They ought to be doing comprehensive immigration reform. I realize that's not going to happen in the very near term because they just don't want to do it, but they ought to be able to provide resources. So thank you very much.